Yo, hoop fans, your sideline sage, Tips and Streams, is lacing up once again. On deck, deep dives into the freshest NBA clashes, ready to set the planks ablaze. But before we jump the ball, be sure to hammer that subscribe on our YouTube channel to keep hooked with our sharp forecasts and prime selections. All right, let's bounce into today's NBA Crystal Ball reads. The first prediction for today is for the game between Boston Celtics and Charlotte Hornets. In the thick of the NBA's heated battles, as teams vie for a spot in the playoffs, the Boston Celtics are gearing up to take on the Charlotte Hornets at the Spectrum Center in what promises to be a game-changing showdown. The Celtics have been on fire this season, boasting an impressive 58-16 record. They've been lighting up the scoreboard with an average of 120.9 points per game, landing them second in the league, while their shooting accuracy from the field is a solid 48.6%. Their prowess doesn't stop there. Their 39.0% success rate from three-point land further showcases their offensive might. With an average of 46.4 rebounds per game and a disciplined approach that sees them only turning over the ball 12.0 times a game, Boston exemplifies efficiency from every angle. On the defensive end, the Celtics have been just as dominant, compelling their opponents to give up the ball 11.9 times per game and holding them to a 45.3% shooting percentage. Their defensive game plan, which concedes just 109.5 points per game, puts them in the NBA's top 6 for thwarting rival offenses. Leading the charge are Jason Tatum, with an average of 27.3 points and 8.2 rebounds, and Jaylen Brown, adding 23.2 points and 5.5 rebounds to the mix. Their latest triumph over the Pelicans, with Tatum dropping 23 points, is proof of their formula for success: explosive offense combined with a lockdown defense. The Charlotte Hornets, however, have had their struggles this season, as seen in their 18-55 record. Scoring an average of 106.2 points per game puts them towards the bottom of the league, and a field goal percentage of 45.7% ranks them 28th. Their issues aren't limited to offense. Defensively, they're letting through 116.7 points per game, with opponents shooting a worrying 49.4% against them. Against a team with the offensive firepower of the Celtics, this could spell trouble. Miles Bridges, with an average of 21.1 points and 7.4 rebounds, shines as a beacon for Charlotte, but it's a tall order for one player to counter the depth and talent of Boston. Given both teams' current form, Boston's all-around strength, and Charlotte's defensive woes, the Celtics are looking like the clear favorites. Their road record is formidable, with 22 wins in their last 23 games, against teams playing the second game of a back-to-back, highlighting their knack for taking advantage of weary teams. With the Hornets facing a back-to-back situation and historically struggling in these conditions, all signs point to a Boston win. Past encounters in Charlotte have also favored the Celtics, who've shown they can shine under the Spectrum Center's spotlight. Considering the Hornets' recent failures to beat the spread in back-to-back scenarios against the Celtics, history is likely to repeat itself. Injuries could influence the game, particularly for Boston, who may opt to rest key players. Yet, even with potential lineup changes, the Celtics' depth remains intimidating, ensuring they keep their edge over a Hornets team missing LaMelo Ball for the season. Taking into account offensive and defensive prowess, form, historical encounters, and the challenges of back-to-back games, the forecast strongly favors the Boston Celtics, not just to win, but to also surpass the 16.5-point spread. Boston's scoring efficiency and defensive rigor should prove overwhelming for Charlotte, especially given their current struggles. With the over-under set at 217.5 points, a high-scoring game is anticipated, primarily driven by Boston's offense. Therefore, betting on the total points to exceed the set mark, buoyed by the Celtics' scoring capabilities and the Hornets' defensive shortcomings, is a sound prediction. My pick is for the Boston Celtics to secure the win and beat the spread. The next prediction for today is for the game between Memphis Grizzlies and Detroit Pistons. Tonight's showdown at Little Caesars Arena is more than just a game. It's a tale of two squads on opposing ends of the rebuild spectrum. The Memphis Grizzlies, despite hitting a rough patch and experiencing a harsh loss to the Magic with a shooting accuracy of only 36.0%, are walking onto the court with a renewed resolve to flip their script. On the flip side, the Detroit Pistons, riding the high of a recent win against the Wizards, aim to make the most of their fortress, a factor that's hard to ignore. The journey this season hasn't been smooth for either team, with the Grizzlies posting a record of 24-50. Their woes are visible on both offense and defense. They're bottom of the league in scoring, and their defensive game, letting through 113.2 points on average, hasn't been foolproof. The Pistons, at 1361, are in a similar boat, with defense being their Achilles heel, as they've given up 119.5 points per game, one of the highest in the league. Yet, their offense, sparked by Cade Cunningham's stellar outings, has shown some signs of life, with an average score of 110.6 points per game. Diving into their recent encounters and overall performance, the Grizzlies have generally dominated, including a solid 14-point win earlier this season. This, along with their surprising road warrior status where they've bagged most of their victories, tips the scales slightly in their favor tonight. Betting trends paint a varied picture. While the Pistons have had moments of brilliance against the spread under certain conditions, their overall standing and recent form, especially at home against Western teams, leave much to be desired. The Grizzlies, often seen as the underdogs, have a history of beating the spread in their road games against the Pistons, adding a twist to tonight's betting narrative. Key game deciders will likely be shooting accuracy, rebounds, and ball control. The Pistons' battle with turnovers and a leaky defense against threes might just be their undoing. Meanwhile, the Grizzlies must exploit these weaknesses to claim victory. Given the Pistons' defensive shortcomings and the Grizzlies' advantage in recent matchups, despite their season's tribulations, the prediction tilts towards Memphis not just beating the spread, but also nabbing an outright win. Expect a high-scoring game, driven by defensive gaps on both sides, with the total points likely tipping over. In summary, amidst the inconsistencies, the Grizzlies' road prowess and historical advantage, combined with the Pistons' defensive blunders, prime Memphis as the probable winner in what's anticipated to be a score-heavy affair. Betting-wise, I'm backing the Memphis Grizzlies to beat the spread and maybe edge out a victory, with a lean towards an over in total points. The next prediction for today is for the game between Brooklyn Nets and Indiana Pacers. As the Brooklyn Nets gear up to take on the Indiana Pacers at the Gainbridge Fieldhouse, we're on the brink of witnessing a high-stakes showdown in the NBA's marathon season. Fresh off a dynamic win against the Bulls, the Nets have been lighting it up from beyond the arc, showcasing a deep offensive toolkit. Cam Thomas, in particular, has been turning heads with his scoring prowess and on-court versatility. Despite a rocky road this season, the Nets have flashed moments of genius, especially with their sharpshooting and gritty defense. Meanwhile, the Pacers have been on a tear, underlined by their dominant performance against the Lakers. Led by Pascal Siakam's comprehensive skill set, they've cemented their status as an offensive powerhouse, topping the charts in points per game. Their shooting accuracy and slick ball movement have been pivotal to their success this year. Digging into the details, the Pacers and Nets display contrasting styles and results. The Pacers, with their top-notch scoring and shooting efficiency, pose a serious threat to any defense. Their recent home games highlight their offensive dominance. The Nets, albeit inconsistent, have proven they can hang with the best, particularly when their three-point game catches fire. Historically, clashes in Indianapolis have leaned in favor of the Pacers, especially in crunch time, bolstered by their home court edge and the Nets' struggles in back-to-back matches. The Nets' performance in consecutive games this season leaves much to be desired, a factor that could tip the scales in this encounter. A deep dive into the team's stats underlines the Pacers' offensive edge and the Nets' defensive dilemmas. The Pacers' scoring ability, both inside the arc and out, combined with their playmaking, marks them as a formidable challenge for the Nets. Moreover, the Pacers' recent form and strategic rest advantage suggest they're primed for battle. Considering these factors, the Pacers' rest edge, scoring efficiency, and track record at home against the Nets hint at a promising outcome for Indiana. Their ability to beat the spread, especially in similar conditions, and their defensive prowess against the Lakers show they're gearing up for playoff intensity. Taking into account the analysis, historical trends, and current momentum, the forecast favors the Indiana Pacers not just to clinch a victory, but also to beat the spread. armed with offensive might, strategic pluses, and the Nets' back-to-back game woes, the Pacers look set for a decisive win. With the Pacers favored by a 10.5-point spread and a total points line at 229, betting on Indiana to beat the spread seems like a wise choice. My money's on the Indiana Pacers to triumph and cover the spread. The next prediction for today is for the game between Portland Trail Blazers and Orlando Magic. Tonight's NBA showdown at the Kia Center is shaping up to be a classic clash of fortunes as the beleaguered Portland Trail Blazers, still smarting from a devastating 60-point blowout by Miami, square off against the surging Orlando Magic. The Blazers are in a tailspin, sporting a dismal 1955 record that lays bare the extent of their season's struggles. Their offense has been lackluster, managing a meager 107.2 points per game on 44.3% shooting, while their defense has been even more porous, conceding 116.2 points per game at an alarming 49.3% clip. This defensive vulnerability puts them at a distinct disadvantage against a Magic team hitting its stride. Orlando, meanwhile, is riding high with a solid 43-31 record, recently hammering Memphis 118-88 in a display of their resilience and firepower. Averaging 110.5 points on a respectable 47.7% shooting, their defense has been formidable, holding foes to 108.3 points per game on 47.2% shooting. Their knack for stifling opponents' assists and rebounds has earned them a reputation as one of the league's defensive stalwarts. The narrative of tonight's matchup is tinged with the recent forms and historical encounters between the two. Despite Portland's dominance in past meetings, Orlando's 102-97 victory last October hints at a changing tide, underscored by Portland's dire 9-game slide, where they've been routinely outclassed by an average margin of 16.7 points. Compounding Portland's misery is their injury-plagued roster, in stark contrast to an Orlando team at full strength, with stars like Paolo Banchero making significant impacts across the board. Considering Orlando's stellar record against the spread, 48-26, and their defensive edge over Portland's flailing offense and leaky defense, the Magic are heavily favored to triumph. Their scoring efficiency and rebounding prowess, coupled with home court advantage and resilience in back-to-back games, further skew the odds in their favor. In sum, the Magic are not only expected to emerge victorious, but also to easily surpass the 15.5-point spread, with the total points likely exceeding the 208.5 mark. Betting on Orlando to cover the spread seems a safe play. Given Portland's current state of disarray and defensive shortcomings, look for the Magic to exploit these weaknesses and notch a decisive win. The next prediction for today is for the game between Atlanta Hawks and Chicago Bulls. Tonight's showdown at the United Center, featuring the Atlanta Hawks and the Chicago Bulls, is set to be an electrifying battle of hoops philosophy and game day tactics, crucial for their playoff ladder climb. The Hawks, shaken but not stirred by their recent defeat to the Bucks, are eager to rebound and cement their position for the play-in games, fueled by DeJounte Murray's playmaking magic and Bogdan Bogdanovic's sniper-like accuracy from downtown. Meanwhile, the Bulls, looking to shake off a stumble against the Nets, are gearing up to revitalize their campaign with a well-rounded offensive led by DeMar DeRozan's scoring finesse and Nikola Vucevic's all-around game. The Hawks have been a scoring juggernaut, dropping an average of 119.2 points per game, thanks to their relentless drive and sharp shooting from the three-point land, knocking down 36.6% from deep. Yet, their defensive gaps have been their soft spot, with opponents lighting them up for 120.5 points per game on a league-high 49.5% shooting. In contrast, the Bulls have carved out a reputation for tighter defense, giving up only 113.7 points per game and proving tough by limiting teams to 47.0% from the field. The Bulls' Achilles' heel has been their struggle from the perimeter, with a three-point shooting efficiency at a modest 35.8%. This could be critical against a Hawks squad that excels in up-tempo, high-scoring games. Moreover, the Bulls' form, dropping 4 of their last 5, raises questions about their defense's capability to slow down Atlanta's explosive offense, particularly on the tail end of back-to-back games, a scenario that has tested their endurance and depth. Historically, clashes in Chicago have been tight, but the Hawks have a history of clutch wins on the road, highlighting their toughness and adaptability. Injuries add a twist to the tale, with the Hawks possibly missing key player Trae Young, and the Bulls uncertain about Alex Caruso and Ayo Dosunmu's play adding to their defensive dilemmas. The stats suggest the Hawks hold the upper hand with superior offensive efficiency, shot creation, and prowess on the offensive boards, setting them up favorably against a Bulls side that might find it tough to keep pace with Atlanta's scoring, especially if they manage to limit DeRozan or if their perimeter defense weakens without their key defenders. Thus, the forecast leans towards an Atlanta Hawks victory, not just beating the spread but also clinching a win away. Their scoring depth, combined with the Bulls' recent fatigue and injury concerns, should see them exploiting Chicago's defensive cracks and outgunning them in what promises to be a score-heavy clash. Anticipate the total points to surpass the 222.5 threshold, driven by the Hawks' scoring spree and the Bulls' bid to compete, crafting a spectacle rich in points and competition. I'm betting on the Atlanta Hawks to beat the spread, with the total points soaring past 222. The last prediction for today is for the game between Phoenix Suns and New Orleans Pelicans. Tonight's clash at the Smoothie King Center, featuring the Phoenix Suns against the New Orleans Pelicans, is shaping up to be a heartstopper. As they battle for supremacy in the Western Conference playoff race, both squads are on a mission to solidify their positions. With the Suns boasting a 42-31 straight-up record, but struggling at 31-43 against the spread, they're rebounding from a tough 128-103 defeat to Oklahoma City. The Pelicans, sporting a stronger 45-29 straight-up and 41-33 against the spread record, are looking to bounce back from a 104-92 loss to Boston. It's more than just a game. It's about making a statement and securing a strategic edge as the playoffs loom. Digging into the details, the Suns' recent game against the Thunder exposed some weak spots, especially their 44.8% shooting and defensive gaps that let Oklahoma City hit an explosive 56.3% from the field. Kevin Durant's standout performance, dropping 26 points on 58.8% shooting, was a bright spot, yet the Suns need to ramp up their teamwork and defensive intensity facing the Pelicans. On the Pelicans side, their last game against the Celtics revealed shooting struggles, hitting only 39.5% from the field, below their season average of 48.7%. Zion Williamson, with a 25.9 rebound effort against Boston, remains a linchpin, especially with Brandon Ingram sidelined. Williamson's recent spree, averaging 29.5 points on a remarkable 65.1% shooting in his past 4 outings, is key to the Pelicans' success. Looking at the team's past encounters in New Orleans, the Pelicans' home court advantage and their leading defense against three-pointers, holding teams to 34.6%, could hinder the Suns' outside scoring. Furthermore, the Suns' fourth-quarter performance, ranking last in points and win percentage, could be a critical factor in a tight match. Despite the Suns' offensive talents, led by Durant and Booker, their recent slump and defensive woes, added to the wear of traveling, might pose significant hurdles. The Pelicans, powered by Williamson's scoring spree and a united defensive front, are in a strong position to challenge the Suns' weaknesses. Given the team's latest outings, statistical insights, and home court dynamics, the Pelicans are well placed to not only beat the 1.5-point spread, but also clinch a victory. Expect the game's total points to fall short of the 225 threshold, considering the team's scoring patterns and defensive strengths. I'm leaning toward a Pelicans win in a game likely defined by smart strategies and staunch defense. I'm backing the New Orleans Pelicans to beat the spread.